Welcome to the Shabby And Man podcast. We are partners, parents, podcasters, broadcasters,
and everything else in between. Well, the Queen is no more. God save the King.
So we're going to start with the biggest story, the only story that has dominated the headlines for the last few days. And it's quite strange because it all happened in the space of a week. On Monday, Great Britain had a new Prime Minister. And by Thursday, very sadly, we had lost our longest reigning sovereign, our dearly beloved Queen Elizabeth II, and we had a new king.
Absolutely momentous week. Things are still moving at such a rapid pace.
Yeah.
Like today and yesterday, and I'll be watching all the proclamations that have happened when they've made him officially King Charles III.
Now, we'll get to that in just a bit, and obviously the passing of the Queen is the big story which is going to dominate the podcast today. But before we get there, give me your reactions on what you think of our new Prime Minister, because that happened on Monday.
Well, it was a foregone conclusion. I think with all the polls and everything else, we knew that Liz Truss was going to be the new British Prime Minister.
Yeah, so I think British Asians, I speak for myself, I think we were a little gutted. Although we knew it wasn't happening, Rishi Sunak was still miles away from becoming the Prime Minister of the country, but it would have been absolutely fantastic. And have you warmed to the new Prime Minister? I haven't at all.
Well, it's early days. It's only been less than a week. But talking about Rishi Sunak, do you think he's going to sit on the backbenches like he says, or he's going to go on to his, one of his ranches and farms in America and spend his billions?
You mean rethink his strategy and come back for the big one to run for Prime Minister again?
No, I don't think he's going to run for Prime Minister again.
I don't know, actually. The only
thing who is going to run for Prime Minister again?
Is Boris, probably.
Boris has said he wants to run.
Yeah. And the one thing I've mentioned this, I mentioned this to you the moment this happened because we were watching this together. No, or was I watching it at work? I can't remember now. But the one thing that really struck me as being very odd for a politician of that stature who's going to be a world player now, I'm talking about Liz Truss, I did not like the way she just stood up and, kind of just brushed aside Rishi Sunak and walked onto the stage only eager to address her party and thank her party for picking her as Prime Minister. The least she could have done was shaken his hand, which I thought was in very poor taste.
Of course not. She mentioned him in her speech.
Oh, she had to. If she hadn't mentioned him, she would have been, I think, completely booed.
Have you just read something? There's all remnants of stuff.
Yeah. Chocolate croissant. I didn't want to say that I've just had a chocolate croissant when we were talking about a rather somber topic.
No, I was just staring at your face and wondering, what is that?
Yeah.
Stuck in your lips. Anyway, talking about Rishi Sunak or Boris Johnson coming back for the 2024 election. 2024 is going to be some crazy year. You've got Trump maybe coming back.
Yeah.
You've got elections in India. You've got elections here. So it's crazy.
Is there any reason why you're speaking extra softly today? It sounds to me like you're whispering.
I know. This is the tone of the podcast.
Oh. So let's get to the big story.
It's a very somber time,
Yeah. Let's get to the big story. Let's get to Thursday. Thursday afternoon, news breaks that Her Majesty's medical team were quite alarmed by her medical condition, and therefore the royal family had been sent for. The Queen was in Balmoral, as she normally is.
And there were all these telltale signs that I was watching people say that, have you noticed that all the TV presenters are wearing black?
Yeah, already they were in black ties. Hours before it was officially announced that Her Majesty had passed away. And it is a once-in-a-lifetime event because she reigned for 70 years. They are saying that for so many people, she was the only monarch, the only sovereign that we had ever known. And since then, I think it is quite poignant and at the same time a very, enlightening display of what being a monarch actually entails, what the various official duties and official, what would you even call it?
Prince Charles has had a lifetime to prepare for this. He's, as we've all heard, he's followed his mother on various expeditions throughout the Commonwealth.
But every tribute to the Queen, people are also highlighting the fact that yes, she led a full life, and she'll probably be the only monarch anywhere in the world in any generation to have served her people for 70 years. So there is a sense of, it was inevitable. People saw it coming for many, many years, and yet when it actually happens, no one is quite prepared for it.
No, I think what shocked everyone was there's lovely photographs of her meeting Liz Truss 2 days before.
Yeah.
True, she had become old, she had a walking stick. But
Very
this
frail.
came out of the blue suddenly.
Yeah.
Well, you weren't on air, were you? Because you have all these protocols and all these things.
I wasn't. But obviously, the obituary protocol for when the head of state dies is very different from any other bereavement in the royal family, and we are put through our paces many, many times to rehearse for that, and yet no one's quite prepared, and it is quite an emotional moment, and everyone's also highlighting the fact that it must be so hard for Prince Charles then, now King Charles, that at the time of such deep personal loss and grief, you're also expected to fulfill all these other things where you have now become king, you have now become the head, and therefore you are meant to go through so many steps.
You're right. There's a phrase for that. I think the continuity of monarchy.
Yeah.
The Queen is dead.
Yeah.
Long live the king.
Yeah, because
he terrible in a way, but that's how it works.
He becomes king the very second after his mother passed away, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to be broadcasting from outside Buckingham
Palace
yesterday.
So this happened on
day.
Thursday, and then on the Friday you broadcast from Buckingham Palace.
From the gates where the world had congregated, and it was so amazing to see people.
That's the first time I think Prince Charles became King Charles, because he turned up with the Queen consort.
Yes, she has given her consent to be the
Queen
consort. Camilla. And that was the first time. People were expecting him to just drive through the gates as people normally do, but he got out of the car, he had a little walkabout, and then we were watching it on the news. I watched it there, of course, live, that he shook hands with one end of the gathering right to the other up until the gate. And when he got off the car, people just spontaneously, chants of "Long live the King" broke out, and that was so surreal. But that's also the moment when the penny really drops and you realize, as you say, the continuity of the monarchy, that there is never a moment when there is no monarch in the country. One dies, one door closes, the other opens. But I think what made the last few days extra poignant for everyone, young or old, was the fact that we were lucky, we were privileged to live in the reign of a lady who will go down in history as being the longest serving monarch anywhere. I doubt it if there's ever going to be another monarch, simply because she was crowned queen at the tender age of 25, and she lived to be 96.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it, that she's seen 15 prime ministers, starting off with Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
So that's...
Yeah, and aren't they saying, they're also quoting a very impressive statistic, that her first Prime Minister was Winston Churchill, who was born in the 1870s, and her last Prime Minister was Liz Truss, who was born in the 1970s. So there's 100 years between her first and last Prime Minister, their date of birth, of course. Winston Churchill was an old man by the time the Queen met him, right?
Yeah.
And so many things have happened. I mean, obviously leaders from around the world. But for us, being here in the heart of the action, as it were, we're seeing it unfurl in front of us. We're seeing it unfold. You go to the tube station, there are beautiful signs. Anyone has put up, their tribute to Her Majesty the Queen. You go to, you walk past... not travel agent, what do you call them? Estate agent. I saw a window only the other day, and it was really beautiful. You've got these little posters of houses on sale, and then in the middle they've got the Queen's photograph, and they've put a little, their own little tribute. So everyone trying to celebrate her life and express their grief and gratitude at the same time in their own way, which is very beautiful.
I know, some people are not too happy about certain things, like I'll tell you, in the world of sports, horse racing, which was one of her hobbies,
passions.
She enjoyed horses, is continuing. But football has been shut down. So, many people saying it's not fair. We could have all just sung the national anthem, and,
in her memory, in her honour.
So there is a bit of a debate there. But I think officially it's a 10-day period of mourning.
And at the time,
then there's an extra 7 days for the royal family.
For the royal family. At the time of recording this podcast, we still don't know the exact date of the funeral, but it's most likely to be Monday the 19th, they are saying.
That is a rumour. And it's a bank holiday. It'll be an official holiday.
It will be a bank holiday. And as you're saying, King Charles has expressed his desire for the royal family, the close members of the Queen, to continue mourning her officially for another 7 days after the funeral.
Do you know what his full name was? Because I heard it so many times this time.
No, what is it?
It was Prince Charles Philip Arthur George.
Who's now Charles III.
Who's now King Charles III.
King Charles III. His first speech to the nation as king. How beautiful was that? How amazing was that? I haven't come across a single person, royalist or not, who thought that it didn't sum up everyone's feelings. You know, there was a man, if you look at it, besides being the king, there was a man, a son, grieving the loss of his mother. At the same time, he had to play the monarch who is welcoming a new era, and yet at the same time closing the door on another phenomenal 70 years of service that his mother gave the country. So it was, I think, a 10-minute speech. And
didn't he say, he mentioned his dear mama many times?
Many times. And at the end, especially, I think it brought a tear to every eye when he said, "May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest," which is a line from Hamlet, of course. How poignant, how beautiful was that? As someone mentioned in the papers today, that it is as much a tribute to the Queen as it is a tribute to Shakespeare's timelessness. Is there anything about life, death, or love that the bard hasn't written in a way that cannot be surpassed? And King Charles just proved that. It's going to be hard calling him King Charles.
School children have not been forced to read.
Forced to read, yeah. So that was a beautiful moment, I think. And I know you said that he has many speech writers guiding him and helping him, but I thought that even that very brief, nonetheless, the brief mention of Harry and Meghan in his speech was important and was lovely. As a father, there's absolutely no reason for him to differentiate between the heir to the throne, William and Harry, at all. And that was a wonderful thing to see, I think.
Now, Prince William takes over his Prince Charles's, I say Prince Charles, King Charles' title.
So he becomes the
Duke of Wales.
Duke of Wales, and also he gets the Duchy of Cornwall, he says, right?
Right. Did he not already? Yeah, you're right, he gets that.
Right, because so far it was Prince Charles who had owned the Duchy of Cornwall. So he becomes the Prince of Wales as well, and George becomes second in line to the throne. So all these things, that's why...
The actual coronation is still a way off. We don't actually know when, after the state funeral of the Queen.
How do you think?
Probably in a month's time, maybe.
You know, the only footage of the coronation we see is of the Queen's father, and then of course the Queen's own coronation. Do you think they will be forced to pare it down? Can they still have it on that scale, that level of pomp and ceremony in this austere time, post-COVID time? What do you think it's going to look like?
I know the world likes to see the pomp and ceremony, but I hope not. I think they should pare it down because the country is going through a very...
the world is going through a very tough time. Yeah. I was just reflecting on the big moments in this country, the big moments that involved the monarchy one way or the other. The coronation of the Queen, naturally, you and I weren't born. Were you here when Prince Charles got married? Or were you away in boarding school?
I think I can't remember. I think I was here.
Were you here?
Yeah.
How is it that you don't remember?
I can't remember it really.
Can you not?
No.
I can still remember. I was a girl of, should I mention it?
No, I was here. I remember. Did they get married in St. Paul's?
They got married in St. Paul's.
Yeah. I did. I do remember.
I have a vivid image. We were in Indore then, and I was very, very, very young. I stress, but I still remember the front page of Nai Duniya, which was the highest-selling newspaper of Indore, Madhya Pradesh. It was a paper in Hindi, and that front cover of Prince Charles and Lady Diana Spencer kissing on the steps of St. Paul's, or was it on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, one or the other, in black and white. It was a black and white photo. I remember that so vividly. I wasn't here. Now, I know that you weren't here when Princess Diana died, which was another momentous in the sad sense occasion.
Here, yeah.
You weren't here. We were both in India.
I have a fantastic story about that because it was a Sunday, I think, because I used to get up, I used to do a show on Sunday mornings, and I used to hear BBC World
a show
Service.
on radio.
On radio. I used to hear BBC World Service. And there were all these reports coming in that there had been an accident. Nothing had been confirmed about Princess Diana then. So, when I got into the studios...
By then, had it been officially announced?
I think it had been announced, and I told everyone, and I was told that I cannot talk about it till...
It is officially confirmed.
It is officially confirmed, and the news bulletin says it first.
Yeah.
So, I didn't. I just said that something has happened.
Yeah.
Why don't you tune into your BBC World Service
to find out? Yeah. That is interesting You should say that, because that is part of the obituary protocol as well, by the way. We were all told that no matter how many websites and social media posts and people with blue ticks and extremely authoritative figures you follow, unless and until the announcement of the Queen's death is actually put out there in a news bulletin.
No, when it's posted at the gates of Buckingham Palace.
Posted at the gates, but also, in a news bulletin. Don't go by people who may be very reliable authorities, but don't go by that unless and until it is announced first by either the BBC or you know what I'm trying to say. It's officially announced as part of a news bulletin. We were not allowed to say it in our own words, even though it may have been true and even though we may have known for some time.
Oh, we just talked about Prince Diana. This brings us on to Queen Camilla.
Yeah.
Queen Camilla, what was the full title?
The Queen Consort.
Queen Consort.
Yeah, she's the Queen Consort.
So there's still a divided opinion
on how.
We know that Prince Charles loves her very much. They've been married for 17 years, and it was his wish that she be called the Queen Consort.
Yeah.
But there is still a fraction of people who miss Princess Diana and think it's still wrong. So that debate is still open, I think.
A lot of people, from the 10-minute, from King Charles's 10-minute speech to the nation, a lot of people also said that, it's rather sad, it's quite poignant the way he underlined the fact that now that he was no longer the Prince of Wales, there are many, many charities which were very close to his heart. We know that he was massively into organic farming and all the rest of it, right? Global warming, climate change was again another cause very close to his heart.
The Princess Trust is one of the biggest charities.
One of the biggest charities, and I've actually been to Buckingham Palace once at a charity gala dinner, which was hosted by Prince Charles. It was the Princess Trust. So
there's also many subsections. Isn't there the Princess Asian Trust or something?
The British Asian Trust. The British Asian Trust, which is again King Charles now. It's so strange. I don't know whether he probably doesn't remain the patron. So they were saying that, he highlighted the fact that all these causes very close to his heart, he would not be able to engage in them as much as he has been doing in the last so many decades. So that passes down to William and Kate, I guess. So, I think whatever he was feeling, whatever his duties now are, and his farewell to his mother and to his queen, he summed it up. It was beautifully summarized in 10 minutes. Not an easy task to do, but he did it. And that is why I think he gets off. He has the country on his side as he starts his reign.
But here I'm not sure. I agree with you. I like Prince Charles. But there's a whole section of society who wanted the throne to be passed from the queen to her grandson. Because
William.
Prince Charles has been... I'm saying Prince Charles as well. King Charles III has been very controversial. He's been quite outspoken. He's meddled in politics here and there.
But tacitly, isn't that what he actually said in his speech? That now my duties will change, that I will not be doing it anymore. But I would imagine people will actually like him for being a little bit outspoken and not towing the line always and doing... Again, I know
I don't think the monarchy can have an opinion.
And that's one of the things that the people loved about the Queen, that to stay neutral, at least publicly, for 70 years, even when hell is breaking loose all around you and you may have very strong opinions on the way the country is being run or certain things are being handled, to kind of maintain that veneer of neutrality for 70 years is very, very hard. I've seen this. You haven't seen the last 2 seasons of The Crown. I have.
No,
Incidentally, they stopped filming for the day as well, as a mark of respect for Her Majesty, the day she died, the next day, Friday.
There'll definitely be another series now.
But they were saying that if you look at the Queen's reign, the only occasions, the 2 occasions where the Queen seemed to have got it horribly wrong was once, I think in the 60s, when the Welsh mining town, Aberfan, when a mine collapsed and it killed about 200 people, I think, of which 150 were children. It was 5 days, on a school. And it was, the Queen didn't go there for 5 days. It was only after 5 days of the tragedy that she was there, and she was met with a very, very hostile crowd who she was eventually able to win over. But they say that obviously Her Majesty, being a young mother herself, would have felt it. The advice given to her was contrary to what the people were feeling at the time. And the second time was during Diana's death, of course, as we know, that when the royal family, when she chose to stay with her grandsons in Balmoral for the first 3 days after Diana's death, it was seen as being in very poor taste. And so, bowing to public opinion, nudged by her then Prime Minister, Tony Blair, I think she was forced to come. So that is, again, if you look at it.
There's a movie made on this, isn't there, with Helen Mirren?
Yeah, it is almost an unblemished track record. In a 70-year reign, if you've only kind of read public opinion wrong twice, that's not such a bad statistic at all. So, well, that's it.
Well, one more thing, that we love the Queen, but there are many across the Commonwealth who do feel that, not the Queen per se,
but monarchy.
But the monarchy has not really been a very good thing.
Yeah. And we can see that around us.
The colonial past.
Yeah, it is. We are feeling sad. We feel this historic moment. We see the passing of the baton from mother to son. But our teenage sons are completely they don't see what the big deal is. Of course, everybody knows that, something phenomenal and significant in British history has happened, in world history has happened. But obviously, they are not as emotional about it as people of a certain age, because again, as you're saying, their generation see the monarchy as being completely defunct, as being an institution that costs a lot.
But brings a lot of revenue in.
It brings a lot. But then again, that's a debate for another day, I suppose. Now that the Queen has gone, are tourists going to come and pay to see Prince Charles or
they are,
King
because
Charles?
To counterbalance that, they say that in France, France gets more tourists than London, and Paris does. And people go to the Palace of Versailles. French Revolution is what, in the 1700s?
Yeah, but the
people still come along.
The Palace of Versailles is the ultimate embodiment of decadence. It is so over the top that I don't think any palace in this land could match it, and possibly people just go there for that reason alone. I'm sure if they melted down all the gold and silver and jewels and use them as currency, France could run on it for a couple of decades. That's how decadent it is. But the significant thing is, by the time we record our next podcast, the Queen's funeral would have taken place. People are also debating whether there's going to be as big a turnout as Princess Diana's funeral. That's again something, for some strange reason people are making these comparisons. But I think that is completely not the point right now.
It's not the point right now. But I think in future generations we'll talk about whether the monarchy should be stripped down a bit.
Streamlined.
Yeah.
Streamlined. Maybe they should be made to pay a little bit more of their expenses, because right now they're completely funded by the taxpayer. But there it is. I mean, it feels very special to be at the center of the action, and it feels indeed like a privilege to have lived in the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, because I don't think there's going to be another monarch anywhere in the world, any time in history, who will rule for 70 years and who will be loved by so many people across generations and ethnicities. So until next time then, I think it's only fair to end the podcast with God Save the King.
God Save the King. Till next time. Bye-bye now.